Welcome back to the Crisis Report. It is April 10th, 2025. Thanks for hanging out with me late last night. Sorry about that. Only so much we can do, but we always get the news out. We always get it out. So appreciate you being here. Hit the bells and stuff. I don't even know who else is live streaming. This is when I don't like to go at this time, to be honest with you. I like to go later because a lot of times some of the other channels I follow are going live. Pinball will go live. Angry will be going live. Magic will be going live. He's Mondays. So, Hudson Valley. I don't like to go at this time. But I need a good night's sleep. I got to get this out. Yada, 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 yada. So, always here. That's right. Always here. So, we're doing our things. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. Doing it and doing it and doing it. So, this one is entitled China Targeted. And I think that's kind of where we're going with all this. Tariffs and everything else. There's a real feel that we're starting to separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. And eyes on the prize, friend. And that prize is China. So we're going to see. We're going to see. We are putting it to them in an economic way. I think that's on purpose. Everybody knows that their economy is not in great shape. But I think Trump is just kind of going for the jugular. And so he came out hard with the tariffs and everything. Today was a down day on Wall Street. But the ultimate goal is to basically make our main competitor, China, suffer. So we shall see. So we're going to get started on your crisis report for April 10th, 2025. Appreciate you being here. Not sure who else is live streaming, but we will get rolling and do the things. So hit the like bell, do the notifications and all that, and subscribe, and come on back for more. We do the most comprehensive news, as I like to call it, on YouTube. We're not fancy, but I don't know anybody else that's putting this amount of content out there. You just read stuff. Yeah, I do read this. I also search it out. I go through, for every one thing you see here, there's probably 3 or 4 that I don't use. So it's and like I said the other night, we ain't paying the mortgage for this sucker. So it's all good. It's all good. I would do this anyway. I'd be looking at all this stuff anyway. So why not compile it and put it into a easy thing for you to strap the earbuds on, go out, go garden, go mow the lawn, go do whatever, and listen to what's going on. Listen to what's going on in the world with a light bit of analysis and a little bit of humor, sometimes some voices, stuff like that. So let's get started, folks. I appreciate you. Hit the buttons and stuff. God bless you. Here we go. By the way, my soda's already open, so I can't do the whoosh. When asked about NATO against NATO, the alliance's Secretary General spoke the threat of Russia and China. Mark Rutte avoided answering a question from Washington Post journalist about how Article 5 of the alliance would be applied if the United States, as NATO member, used military forces against Greenland. By the way, this New York Times came out, this is debunked. We're not going to go attack Greenland. But anyway, he said that Trump did not rule out force to seize Greenland. I want to ask you, what good would Article 5 do if the attack NATO ally comes from within? How will NATO respond? He said, we have to look beyond Greenland and look to the northern regions of the Arctic as a whole. Many problems. Chinese are using new sea routes. Russia's rearming, arming parts of the Arctic. That's why the 7 Arctic countries are working together to protect NATO territory. Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty states that an armed attack on one or more NATO countries in Europe or North America be considered an attack on all of them as a whole. So all of that is just conjecture. New York Times did have a post today basically saying that, we're not going to attack Greenland. In fact, what they're probably going to do, as stated in the article, And again, this is one that I saw, I just didn't post here. They're going to do a propaganda campaign. They're going to use social media. They're going to make, try to win hearts and minds of the Greenlanders to become part of America. Why? Because Greenland is a strategic part not only of the Arctic, but also of sea lanes. I wish I could explain it, but on Netflix, there's a show called The Diplomat. And President, not to give too much away, the president dies, vice president takes over. But she is explaining to this diplomat why some of these things are really strategic and everything. And she describes these sea lanes that go basically between Greenland and the north, like by the United Kingdom and such. And this base and why it is so strategic because it is literally the last gatekeeper up there. And if we don't have basically people there or any kind of eyes on the sea below, they can sneak down submarines and such and do a lot of damage. So that's basically the goal, not only the Arctic, but also a pincer move between what we have left in the United Kingdom and then, of course, what we could put on Greenland itself. So great show, by the way, The Diplomat, if you want to check it out. I digress. Punchbowl reporter on X said the House has passed a joint budget resolution 216 to 214. Win for the House Speaker Johnson. Trump, now they need to craft a reconciliation package, $1.5 trillion in cuts. They're saying all that now. Of course, that 1.5 is over 10 years. It's peanuts. It's ceremonial at best, but they are doing some things to claw back some money and get better. So we'll see. They've got plans. We'll see if they work. Yedioth Edonoth, citing Israeli sources, says, Trump has given Netanyahu more time to continue fighting in Gaza, but not for long. Trump is expected to ask Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza soon. The Trump administration is working behind the scenes on a deal to release the captives and end the Gaza war. China, EU have discussed closer trade ties because they're both communists now. China and the EU held talks to boost trade and investment ties as U.S. tariffs escalate. Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao and EU Commissioner Maros Sefcovic discussed restarting negotiations on electric vehicles, or EUVs, pricing, and broader trade relief. Wang urged joint efforts to defend the multilateral trading system and promote WTO reform. Talks come as Trump has raised tariffs on China 125%. They've gone up even more since. EU had earlier imposed up to 35.3% in anti-subsidy tariffs on Chinese EVs. So China really wants to get BYD, that's the big EV automaker there. They want to get them into the markets of Europe because that's where the money is. But to be honest with you, also they can tap into networks when they've got all their chips and stuff working, whatever kind of a devices have been proven in other technology. And they can tap into networks and basically do espionage and steal information. So when it comes down to China, that's what it's all about. They're basically parasites. And that's what it's all about. Top money managers say Japan, not China, triggered U.S. bond sell-off, pressuring Trump to pause tariffs. Top money managers say it was Japan, not China, selling last night that upended the bond market, forced Trump's hand into a pause. And yes, Trump took the win, as so many countries wanted to do deals. Never one thing that causes anything. Story developing. Kind of touched on this on the PrepperNow video in the afternoon with China and Asian countries, which is including Japan. If they were to sell treasuries and if they were to, sell mortgage-backed securities, it would effectively raise the mortgage rates up and make it so any last vestiges of a housing market would not be there because there'd be too much in interest and crash the market. So it's a plan they're thinking about over in Asia. Coalition of the Willing will meet in NATO HQ in Brussels today, co-hosted by the UK. France meeting brings together defense ministers to coordinate security support for Ukraine and deter further Russian aggression. Chaired by the United Kingdom's John Healey and France's Sébastien Lecornu. Focus future military planning and national capability contributions. Aims to strengthen Ukraine's defense and plan for a potential reassurance force. China's Commerce Ministry has reiterated that if Washington chooses a trade war, we will fight to the end. Pressure, threats, blackmail are not the right way to deal with us. Chinese Foreign Ministry also said there are no winners in a tariff war. They serve no one's interests and do not benefit the people. Ukraine is ready to spend up to $50 billion for more U.S. air defenses and aid. We pay the money accordingly if you want it in fund or if you want us to pay you directly. It doesn't matter to us. Ukrainian intelligence has identified 155 Chinese citizens fighting for Russia, according to Zelensky. U.S. and Russia have swapped prisoners in Abu Dhabi in a deal arranged by intelligence agencies. I'll have more details on that. Iran could expel atomic watchdog inspectors to transfer enriched material to undisclosed locations if it faces military attack or continued external threats. Amazon began canceling orders from China and other parts of Asia after Trump's tariffs. We got a story coming up on that. Turkish M.O.D. to ensure regional security. Israel must abandon its expansionist occupying stance, and international community must prevent this unlawfulness. EU is considering pausing its countermeasures due on April 15th against the U.S. tariffs for 90 days. Turkish Petroleum will launch oil and gas exploration in 3 fields in Somalia in the coming months. Israel says recognition of the Palestinian state by France would be a reward for terrorism. Israeli army radio, quoting an Israeli official, says we made it clear to Turkey and Azerbaijan that any change in the deployment of foreign forces in Syria is a red line. China will moderately lower the number of U.S. films imported to the country, CCTV has reported. What are they going to do without such classics as Snow White's, and just some of the greatest movies ever created? We'll just have to find out. As the Trump administration pushes to acquire Greenland from Denmark, even by force, some Silicon Valley investors are eyeing it as a site for a libertarian freedom city with minimal regulation. Trump's Denmark ambassador pick, Ken Howry, a Peter Thiel associate and Elon Musk ally, is reportedly taking the idea seriously. So, be cold but free. That's cool. Japan plans to join NATO's Ukraine Support Command in Germany, aiming to deepen security ties. Japan's role would remain non-combat, in line with its post-World War II military stance. EU has agreed to a 90-day pause in countermeasures that were set to take effect on April 15th against U.S. tariffs, von der Leyen has stated. Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, says there will be no elections in the summer. There is no preparation for them. First, we need to end the war. Apple has ordered a charter flight to transport 600 tons of iPhones from India to the United States. It's about 1.5 million units per their numbers. The wealth of the world's richest people increased by a record $304 billion after Trump's decision to pause tariffs, according to Bloomberg. European Commission says our countermeasures on U.S. tariffs will take effect after 90 days if we do not reach an agreement with Washington. United States National Economic Council Director Hassett says there's a big inventory of deals that are right close to the finish line. Close to 20 countries are making offers on tariffs. France plans to test a domestically developed rocket artillery system by mid-2026, an alternative to the American HIMARS. U.S. National Economic Council Director Hassett says conversations on China have not yet begun. U.S. National Economic Council Director Hassett says we expect a lot of movement with world leaders next 3 to 4 weeks, and Trump never had any other intent other than getting people to the table. Delivery of nuclear submarines to Australia under the AUKUS partnership could be disrupted by President Trump's introduction of tariffs or on imported products, according to Reuters. F-35 carrier landing through the pilot's helmet was mounted display. I guess that's obviously a picture. Israeli Prime Minister's office, pursuant to a directive from PM Netanyahu, a diplomatic security delegation led by National Security Council Director Zachi Hanegbi, and with the participation of senior representatives from the Defense Ministry and the security services, met with a parallel Turkish delegation. Germany's DW has, it's developed, reported that disinformation campaigns on Syria are being fueled by paid social media posts. One user linked to Iraq's PMF revealed they're paid $20 to $30 per post to spread content provided by their superiors. I trust my leadership, they said. Wall Street opens sharply lower following a historic surge. Dow Jones was down 1.64. NASDAQ was down 2.71. S&P 500 was down 2.11. Merz's election as German Chancellor will likely take place on May 6th, according to DPA. White House, United States tariffs on China now total 145% following the latest hikes. United States House has passed the budget plan, provided for extension of Trump's tax cuts. Spot gold rose to a fresh all-time high. CIA director stated that a prisoner exchange with Russia was taking place in Abu Dhabi. Russia freed Ksenia Karolina, U.S.-Russian citizen who was sentenced last year to 12 years in a maximum security penal colony for donating money to the AFU. It was $50. United States has released Artur Petrov, a German-Russian citizen arrested in Cyprus in 2023 at the request of the United States for allegedly exporting microelectronics. The exchange was negotiated by CIA Director John Ratcliffe and a senior Russian intelligence official. We are instructed by Hamas. The UK has lost its mind completely. These people are instructed by Tur to whitewash them. They should be thrown in jail. By the way, today the American Embassy outside in London had its water fountain system, whatever the heck it was, before, in front of it, turned blood red by dye to signify what's going on in Gaza. As long as Hamas is there, the Gazans better leave, and they all know why. Hamas will fight until the last drop of blood if the Gazans not of Hamas. State Department statement following Secretary Rubio's meeting with Saudi foreign minister says the secretary and the foreign minister discussed diplomatic efforts in Gaza to release hostages and work towards a durable ceasefire in Gaza in which Hamas is completely disarmed and disempowered. Aircraft carrier USS Truman is located behind Mecca and Jeddah, 830 kilometers or 450 nautical miles from the Yemeni coast. Aircraft carrier USS Vincent is expected to arrive in the area within 3 to 5 days. European Union weighs increasing gas imports from the United States in response to tariff pressure from Mr. President Trump. European Commission is pausing its countermeasures in response to the United States tariffs for 90 days. Inflation in the United States is now at 2.4%, lower than expected, supposedly. Prosecutors say Carmelo Anthony will not face life in prison or the death penalty for stabbing Austin Metcalf in the heart following a verbal altercation. The whole story has really got people at odds. Canada is set to remove tariffs in the United States as early as tomorrow if the U.S. does the same. Secretary of Labor told Trump that Doge uncovered massive unemployment fraud with payments going to thousands of toddlers, people listed as 115 years old. Oldest person in America is 114 right now. Even individuals not yet born, totaling hundreds of millions wrongly paid out. Wingtip of an American Airlines plane struck another aircraft carrier. Several U.S. Congress members at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. No injuries were reported. President Trump is considering the possibility of delisting Chinese public companies from U.S. stock exchange. That's why I'm saying that China is being targeted in all this. President Trump says he plans to pause deportations for illegal immigrants employed in agriculture, hospitality, and other industries where workers are needed. Attorney General Pam Bondi says a major arrest involving a Tesla-linked tour is expected within the next 24 hours. Pakistan is going to send a delegation to the United States for tariff negotiations. U.S. stocks fall, S&P 500 down more than 5%, NASDAQ more than 6%. Republicans pass a largely symbolic U.S. voter ID bill. Helicopter has crashed into the Hudson River in New York. Got the latest developments on that here in a moment. 6 people have died in a helicopter crash in the Hudson River. Second U.S. aircraft carrier has reached the Middle East. A federal judge has allowed the Trump administration to require everyone in the United States illegally to register with the federal government. Illegals who have failed to register will go to jail. To avoid the penalty, they should book a free flight home right now, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Policy Miller has said. So effective tomorrow, all individuals residing in the United States illegally must register with the federal government. Gold prices have hit a record of $3,190 an ounce. Recession fears and Trump's unpredictable tariff strategy drove investors toward safe haven assets. You're probably wondering, where's silver at? Last time I checked, silver's at $31. I'm just putting that out there for no reason whatsoever. Just telling you, $31 an ounce for silver. No reason. No reason at all. Just telling you. United States Central Command has announced that the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson, with a fleet of F-35 aircraft, has arrived in its area of responsibility in the Middle East and is operating in parallel with the aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman. U.S. has closed in on the Lebanese government. It is blocking financial aid from Saudi Arabia and Qatar until Hezbollah is disbanded, Lebanon's foreign minister has confirmed. United States stocks extended losses. The S&P 500 was down 4.2, Dow was down 3.4, and the NASDAQ was down 5%. German President Steinmeier says the European army would not be a replacement for NATO. European Union and the United Arab Emirates have launched trade talks after Trump's tariff announcements. Elon Musk says he anticipates saving $150 billion for fiscal year 2026 from a reduction of waste and fraud. Can Trump fire Fed Chief Powell if the court lets him? Please. Please. The case, Trump wants the Supreme Court to scrap limits on firing heads of independent agencies like the Fed. What's at stake if approved? He could fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell and others at will. Why it matters? Well, the Fed's independence and political pressure could be undermined. Background, 1935 ruling lets Congress shield agency leaders. Trump aims to overturn that. So the short answer is yes, if the Supreme Court rules in its favor, he can. Iran is considering proposing an interim nuclear agreement to the United States before continuing negotiations for a comprehensive agreement. Iran believes that reaching a complex nuclear agreement within 2 months is unrealistic. April 7th, the person in charge of Dongguan Borg paper packaging factory, Dongborg paper factory, said that due to Trump's tariffs on China, Factory orders were canceled. Tens of millions of machines were stopped running, and workers could only do cleaning. They're sitting there looking and cleaning and cleaning and looking. United States Supreme Court says the Trump administration must facilitate the return of a Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. By the way, Bloomberg says that 80% of all the Venezuelans down in the CECOT, C-E-C-O-T, that federal prison in El Salvador, they're innocent. They're nice people. They're not evil. So we should want them here. We want people. Yeah. Tech boss Agustin Escobar, the president of the Spanish branch of the technology company Siemens, and his wife and their 3 children were killed in the helicopter crash in New York City today. Hopefully his family finds a little bit of peace. So that is your crisis report for April 10th, 2025. Hit the buttons and stuff, please. Give it a like, share it out, tell people all about it. Tell people what we're doing here. Current trajectory, we should be at the same subscriber count as we were back in October. A thoroughly impressive job on a 2 billion person platform. We congratulate Borg for the non-manipulative things that he does. And we congratulate you. God bless you. Thanks so much for being here. Darken out the bell. Get the notifications, get the sarcasm, get the singing, sometimes get the accents. For being here on the Crisis Report, really do appreciate it. It is important to be subscribed. If you want to be a member like Howard Clegg or John Dearman, that really does help. It gets some skin in the game. So if you would like to do that, also, I populate over on Subscribestar and Locals and have a nice little robust community on both of those. If you would like, you can go and join me there. They are a few dollars a month, though. And there are other ways. There's Cash App. There's Buy Me a Coffee. Someone just signed up for a monthly support there. We are listener supported, so we appreciate you. But you don't got to do anything. You just got to sit back. If you like to do that, great. And if you don't got money or time, or it's too much effort, or you just don't like your information being out there, all understandable. We're just happy for you to be here, listening in as we do the Crisis Report. Was nightly and then went morningly, and now it's back to nightly. So hopefully this works for all of you, because it does for me. So God bless, and we will see you on the next one. Have a great night.